Captain Velther pressed his long, thin fingers against the control panel of the luminous dawn. The crystalline ship shuddered around him as another system failed. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge, casting strange shadows on the walls. Made of living crystal. Science Keeper, the life support is down to 12%, reported his second officer Mordun. The young Kitherian's large eyes showed fear as he read the numbers from his station. At this rate, we have maybe 6 hours before the air runs out. Velther looked out through the transparent walls of his ship at the empty space around them. 3 days ago, they had been exploring an ancient asteroid field when the meteor hit them. The impact had cracked their hull and damaged most of their systems. Now they were drifting between star systems with no way to call for help. "What about the emergency beacon?" asked Dr. HFY from her research station. The elderly scientist had been studying the artifacts they found in the ruins on the asteroid. "The one we discovered in the ancient vault?" Velther turned to look at the strange device sitting on a nearby table. It was made of some dark metal that none of them recognized. Strange symbols covered its surface, and it had taken them 2 days just to figure out how to turn it on. "We don't even know if it works," Mordun said, "or what kind of signal it sends. It could call anything. We're going to die anyway if we don't try," HFY replied. She picked up the device and examined it again. The power readings suggest it's some kind of emergency transmitter. Very old, but still functional. Velther made his decision. "Do it. Activate the beacon." HFY's fingers found the activation switch. The device hummed to life, and suddenly the bridge filled with a deep, vibrating sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The beacon sent out its signal into the darkness of space, reaching much farther than any of them imagined. 200 light-years away, Captain Jake Morrison was drinking coffee on the bridge of the Iron Resolve when the signal hit their communications. A ray like a hammer. The ship's alarm started screaming, and every screen on the bridge flashed red. What the hell was that? Morrison jumped to his feet, spilling coffee on his uniform. The Iron Resolve was a human dreadnought, one of the most powerful warships. In the Colonial Defense Force, nothing should have been able to punch through their defenses so easily. "Commander," Lisa Grant ran to her station and started checking the readings. "Sir, we just received some kind of distress signal, but it's unlike anything I've ever seen. The frequency is cutting through our shields like they aren't even there." "Where's it coming from?" Morrison asked, moving to stand behind her chair. "That's the strange part," Grant replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "It's coming from grid section 47 Alpha. According to our charts, there's nothing out there. No planets, no stations, no shipping lanes." Morrison frowned. "Play the signal." The sound that filled the bridge was haunting. It seemed to speak directly to something deep in the human brain, triggering every emergency response they had. Morrison felt his heart rate increase just listening to it. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Ben Carter from the communication station, "we're getting reports from other ships. They're all receiving the same signal. Every human vessel within 50 light years is picking this up." Morrison's blood went cold. "How many ships?" "At least 30 so far, sir. And more are reporting in every minute." Across human space, the ancient beacon signal was causing chaos. Admiral Karen Phillips was reviewing supply reports aboard the carrier Liberty's Edge when her aide rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, we have a fleet-wide emergency signal. Every ship in the sector is receiving it." Phillips looked up from her reports. "What kind of signal?" "Unknown, none. But it's triggering every emergency protocol we have. Ships are already changing course toward the source." On the heavy cruiser Dakota's Pride, Captain Ben Rodriguez was training his crew when the signal hit. Within minutes, his navigation officer was plotting a course to the source without even being ordered to do so. "Captain, we need to respond to this," his executive officer said. "Whatever's sending that signal, it's in serious trouble." Rodriguez nodded. The signal was doing something to him, too. Every instinct he had as a military officer was telling him to respond with maximum force. Set course for the source. Maximum speed. Back on the Iron Resolve, Morrison was getting reports from across the fleet. The signal was somehow synchronizing with human communication networks spreading from ship to ship and triggering automatic responses. "Sir, we have 43 ships confirmed changing course," Grant reported. "And that number is growing. The signal is acting like some kind of fleet recall order." "But we didn't send any fleet recall," Morrison said. "No, sir, we didn't, but something did." Dr. Amanda Price, the fleet's lead xenobiologist, had been studying alien artifacts when the signal reached her research vessel, New Horizon. Unlike the military ships, her first thought wasn't about threats or enemies. "This is incredible," she said to her assistant as she analyzed the signal. "Look at these harmonic patterns. This isn't just a distress call. It's trying to communicate something." She ran the signal through every translation program she had. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Whoever sent this, they're not trying to threaten anyone. They're asking for help." But her peaceful interpretation was lost in the growing military response. Captain Steve Burton received the signal while his destroyer squadron was on patrol near the outer colonies. Within an hour, all 6 of his ships were racing toward the source. Colonel Maria Santos was loading her marine assault ships for a training exercise when the signal reached them. Her instincts told her this was bigger than any training mission. She ordered her battalion to prepare for wheel combat as more and more human ships changed course. The response grew beyond anything anyone had planned. What started as individual ships responding to a distress call was becoming the largest military fleet in human history. On the luminous dawn, Velthor and his crew had no idea what they had started. The beacon had stopped transmitting after only a few minutes, but the damage was done. They continued their repairs, hoping that someone, somewhere, had heard their call for help. "Do you think anyone received our signal?" Mordun asked as he tried to fix the life support systems. "I hope so," Velthor replied. "Though I wonder what kind of beings will respond to such an ancient device." Zephyr was still studying the beacon. The power readings suggest it was designed for long-range emergency use. Whoever built this wanted to make sure their distress calls would be heard across vast distances. "Let's just hope they were friendly," Velthor said. None of them knew that their simple cry for help had accidentally triggered every human war instinct in 3 sectors of space. The beacon had somehow tapped into frequencies that humans associated with maximum threat levels. To the approaching human fleet, the signal didn't sound like a plea for rescue. It sounded like a battle cry. Admiral Phillips established communication with the other fleet commanders as more ships joined the response. "This is Admiral Phillips taking overall command. We have an unknown signal originating from unexplored space. All ships maintain formation and prepare for possible first contact." "First contact, Mom?" asked Captain Morrison over the communication link. "That signal isn't human," Phillips replied, "which means we're about to meet someone new. And given the size of our response, they're going to get quite a reception." The human armada continued to grow as it raced through space toward the source of the signal. What the Catherians had intended as a simple rescue request was about to become the most overwhelming first contact in galactic history. Admiral Karen Phillips stood on the bridge of the Liberty's edge, watching the tactical display with growing amazement. What had started as a handful of ships responding to a distress signal had become something much larger. The display showed over 60 human vessels converging on the same coordinates, and more were arriving every hour. "Admiral, we have another squadron joining the formation," reported her communications officer. "That makes it 74 ships total." Phillips shook her head. In her 30 years of military service, she had never seen anything like this. "Have all commanders report to me. I'm taking overall command of this operation." "Yes, ma'am." "What should we call it?" Phillips looked at the massive fleet on her screens. "Call it Operation Beacon Response." Captain Ben Rodriguez was the first to reach the signal source. His heavy cruiser Dakota's Pride dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately began scanning the area. What he found made him call for backup immediately. "Admiral Phillips, this is Captain Rodriguez. You need to see this." "What do?" "You have, Captain?" Phillips replied over the communication link. "There's a ship here, Mom. But it's like nothing I've ever seen before." Rodriguez stared at the vessel through his bridge's main screen. The ship was beautiful in a strange way. Its hull seemed to be made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. It was about the size of a human research vessel, but its design was completely alien. "It's damaged," Rodriguez continued. "Hull breaches, power flickering. Looks like they got hit by something big." Dr. Amanda Price had convinced the captain of her research ship to let her join the first response group. Now she watched the alien vessel through her instruments with fascination instead of fear. "Captain Rodriguez, this is Dr. Price aboard the New Horizon. Can you get me detailed scans of that vessel?" "Already working on it, Doc," Rodriguez replied. "But you're going to want to see this yourself." The scans revealed things that made Dr. Price's heart race with excitement. The ship showed no weapons of any kind. Its hull was thin and fragile compared to human ships. Most importantly, the life. Signs inside were weak and getting weaker. "They're dying," Dr. Price said over the fleet communication channel. "Whatever hit them damaged their life support. We need to help them." But helping would have to wait. More human ships were arriving every few minutes, and each commander had their own ideas about what they were facing. Captain Steve Burton arrived with his destroyer squadron and immediately took defensive positions around the alien ship. "This could be a trap," he warned the other commanders. "One damaged ship is bait, while the real fleet waits to ambush us." Colonel Maria Santos brought her marine assault ships and began preparing boarding arties. "If we're going in there, we need to be ready for anything. These aliens could be dangerous." Captain Helen Carter commanded the diplomatic vessel Peaceful Dawn, one of the few non-military ships in the growing fleet. She had been a diplomat before joining the Navy and tried to bring some calm to the situation. "Everyone slow down," Carter said over the communication channel. "This is clearly a rescue situation. We don't need assault troops for a first aid mission." "With respect, Captain Carter," replied Colonel Santos, "we don't know what we're dealing with. Better to be ready for war and find peace than the other way around." The alien ship continued to drift helplessly as the human fleet grew around it. Inside the luminous dawn, Captain Velthur and his crew had no idea they were surrounded by the largest military force in human space. "The repairs are not going well," Mordan reported. "We've managed to restore minimal life support, but the hull damage is too severe for us to fix with our tools." Velthur nodded sadly. They had done their best, but Catherian technology was designed for research and exploration, not emergency. "Repairs in deep space. How long do we have?" "Maybe 18 hours, Mordan replied. 20 if we reduce power to everything except life support. Dr. Zephyhai looked up from her study of the ancient beacon. "I'm detecting something strange," she said. "There are energy signatures approaching us, many of them." Velthur moved to the sensor station and gasped at what he saw. The space around them was filled with ships. Dozens of them, all much larger than the luminous dawn. Their hull designs were angular and aggressive, covered with what looked like weapon systems. By the crystal light, Velther whispered. What have we done? The Cytherians had never seen warships before. Their entire species had evolved without natural predators. Or enemies. The concept of building ships designed for combat was foreign to them. Looking at the human fleet, they could only conclude that they had accidentally called for help from a species of warriors. Are they going to attack us? Mordaunt asked, his voice shaking. I don't know, Velther replied, but we can't run. Our engines are barely working. On the human ships, the debate continued about how to approach the situation. Admiral Phillips listened to reports from her various commanders and tried to make sense of it all. Captain Morrison aboard the Iron Resolve had been studying the alien ship's design. Admiral, I don't think these aliens are a threat. Look at their ship construction. It's built for science, not war. That's what they want us to think, argued Captain Merton. The perfect trap is one that looks harmless. Dr. Price had been analyzing every detail she could gather about the aliens. Admiral, I've been studying their ship's energy patterns. They're not trying to hide from us or prepare any weapons. Their power is failing. They're going to die if we don't help them soon. Lieutenant Kevin Walsh was a Marine officer aboard Captain Carter's ship. He had experience with first contact situations and had been listening to the debate with growing concern. Ma'am, he said to Captain Carter, this is getting out of hand. We have nearly 80 ships here now. If these aliens see all of us at once, they're going to think we're invading them. Carter nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. Admiral Phillips, this is Captain Carter. I recommend we pull most of the fleet back and approach with just a few ships. We're going to scare them to death if they see all of us. Negative, Captain, Phillips replied. We don't know what we're dealing with yet. The fleet stays together. More ships continued to arrive. Captain Nancy Lewis brought the hospital ship Mercy's Call, which would be needed if there were casualties. Commander Jack Thompson arrived with a squadron of fighters. Captain Lisa Hayes brought supply ships in case the operation took a long time. Each new arrival made the situation more complex. The human fleet was now larger than most planetary defense forces. What had started as a rescue mission was beginning to look like an invasion fleet. Inside the alien ship, the Cytherians watched in growing terror as more human vessels appeared. Their sensors showed energy weapons, missile systems, and ship designs that spoke of centuries of warfare experience. They're surrounding us, SciFi reported. I count over 80 ships now. Velther tried to stay calm for his crew, but inside he was terrified. Had their distress signal been interpreted as a challenge? Had they accidentally declared war on this unknown species? Can we communicate with them? He asked. I'm trying, Morgan replied. But our communication systems are damaged, and I don't know their language or protocols. The situation was becoming more dangerous by the hour. The humans were preparing for anything from peaceful contact to full-scale battle. The aliens were dying slowly, while surrounded by what looked like an invasion force. And neither side understood what the other was thinking. Admiral Phillips finally made her decision. All ships maintain defensive positions. Captain Carter, prepare a first contact team. We're going to find out what these aliens want and why they called us here. Yes, ma'am, Carter replied. But Admiral, we might want to consider that they didn't call us on purpose. That beacon signal might have been an accident. Accident or not, Phillips said, we're here now, and we're going to handle this situation properly. The stage was set for the most overwhelming first contact in galactic history. 80 human warships faced one dying alien research vessel, and neither side knew what to expect from the other. Admiral Phillips stared at the tactical display showing 87 human ships surrounding one small alien vessel. In all her years of military service, she had never imagined first contact would happen like this. The situation was getting more complicated by the hour. Admiral, We have 12 more ships requesting permission to join the fleet, reported her communications officer. Denied, Phillips said quickly. We have enough ships here to conquer a small planet. Tell the other commanders to maintain their current positions and wait for orders. She turned to Captain Helen Carter, who had just arrived on the Liberties. Edge for a strategy meeting. Captain, you have the most diplomatic experience here. I'm putting you in charge of the first contact team. Carter nodded, though she looked nervous. Ma'am, I've studied all the first contact protocols, but none of them cover this situation. We usually plan for 1 or 2 ships making contact, not an entire battle fleet. Do your best, Phillips replied. And Carter, remember that every human ship in this sector is watching us. If this goes wrong, it could affect how we handle alien contact for decades. Dr. Amanda Price was already working on communication protocols aboard her research ship. She had been studying the alien vessel's energy patterns and had made some interesting discoveries. The aliens are using harmonic frequencies to communicate, she explained to Captain Carter over the video link. Their ship's hull seems to vibrate in specific patterns. I think they might communicate through sound and light combinations. Can you build a translator? Carter asked. I'm working on it, Price replied. But Captain, there's something else. You need to know. These aliens are terrified. Their energy patterns show extreme stress. They think we're here to attack them. Carter understood the problem immediately. From the aliens' perspective, their simple call for help had summoned a massive war fleet. How do we convince them we're here to help? Very carefully, Price said. Captain Ben Rodriguez had been monitoring the alien ship from his position closest to it. His sensors showed that the vessel's condition was getting worse. Admiral, their life support is failing faster now, Rodriguez reported. At this rate, they have maybe 12 hours before their air runs out completely. Then we need 2. Move quickly, Phillips replied. Captain Carter, prepare your contact team. You're going over there. Lieutenant Kevin Walsh was checking his equipment in the shuttle bay of Carter's ship. As the senior Marine assigned to the contact team, his job was to protect the diplomats and scientists. But he was worried about how the aliens would react to seeing harmed humans. Ma'am, should I leave the weapons behind? He asked Carter. No, Carter replied. We don't know what we might find over there, but keep them hidden unless there's real danger. Dr. Price joined the contact team with her translation equipment and scanning devices. She was excited about meeting a new alien species, but she could also feel the tension from everyone around her. Remember, Carter told her team as they prepared. To board the shuttle, we represent all of humanity today. Whatever happens over there will be remembered for centuries. Inside the luminous dawn, Captain Velther watched the approaching human shuttle with a mixture of hope and fear. The small craft was clearly heading toward his ship, but he had no idea what the humans wanted. Should we try to communicate with them? Asked Mordoon, who was monitoring their communication systems. Yes, Velther replied. If they're here to help us, we need to let them know we're grateful. If they're here to attack us, maybe we can convince them we're not a threat. Dr. Zephyhi was still studying the human ships through their sensors. Captain, I've been analyzing their vessel designs. These ships are clearly built for warfare, but they're also much more advanced than anything in our databases. How advanced? Velther asked. Their smallest ships have more firepower than our planetary defense systems, Zephyhi replied. If they wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead. This gave Velther some hope. Maybe the humans were here to help after all. Captain. Carter's shuttle approached the alien ship slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Dr. Price was amazed by what she saw through the shuttle's windows. The ship is beautiful, she said. Look at how the crystal hull catches the light from nearby stars. It's like a work of art. It's also full of holes, Lieutenant Walsh pointed out. Whatever hit them really did a number on their ship. The shuttle docked with the alien vessel using universal docking clamps that had been designed for situations like this. Carter took a deep breath before opening the airlock. "Here we go," she said. The first thing that struck them was the sound. The alien ship hummed with harmonic frequencies that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Dr. Price immediately began recording everything. "The ship is alive," she whispered. "Not literally, but it's responding to the crew's presence. The harmonics change when they move." They made their way through corridors that glowed with soft blue light toward what their scanners indicated was the ship's bridge. When they finally met the aliens face to face, both sides stopped and stared. The Catherians were tall and graceful, with translucent skin that showed the flow of their blood underneath. Their large eyes reflected the light like jewels, and their movements were smooth and careful. They looked fragile, almost ethereal. Captain Velther stepped forward and made a gesture that was clearly meant to be peaceful. He spoke in a series of musical tones that filled the air with harmonics. Dr. Price's translation equipment began working immediately. "He's saying something about gratitude and peace," she told Carter. "I think he's trying to thank us for coming." Carter stepped forward and made her own peaceful gesture. "We received your distress signal," she said, while Dr. Price's equipment translated her words into the alien's harmonic language. "We're here to help." The relief on Velther's face was obvious. He spoke again, and this time the translation was clearer. "We are dying," the translation said. "Our ship is broken. We did not know if anyone would hear our call." "Your call was heard by many ships," Carter replied. "We brought help." This seemed to confuse the aliens. Velther looked at his crew, then back at Carter. "Many ships?" he asked. Dr. Price realized the problem. "Captain, I don't think they know about the fleet outside. Their sensors might not be working properly." Carter made a decision that would change everything. "Would you like to see our ships?" She activated her portable display screen and showed Velther the tactical view of the human fleet. 87 warships arranged in perfect formation around his small research vessel. The reaction was immediate. Velther stepped back in shock, his skin color shifting to a pale silver. Mordan made a sound that the translator interpreted as terror. Dr. Zephi actually fell to her knees. "By the crystal light," Velther whispered. "What have we done?" Carter realized she had made a mistake. "Wait, please don't be afraid. We're here to help you." But the damage was done. The aliens now understood that their simple distress call had summoned what looked like an invasion fleet. From their perspective, they had accidentally started a war. "We are peaceful," Velther said, his voice shaking. "We have no weapons. We meant no challenge to your people." "There is no challenge," Carter tried to explain. "Your distress signal reached many of our ships. They all came to help." The concept seemed impossible for the aliens to understand. Why would so many warships respond to a simple rescue call? Dr. Price stepped forward with her scanners. "Captain Velther, may I examine your crew? You said you were dying. We want to help you survive." The medical scans revealed something that shocked Dr. Price. The aliens were not just physically fragile. They were biologically incompatible with most standard human medical procedures. What humans considered basic first aid could kill them. "This is a problem," Price said quietly to Carter. "Our medical equipment is designed for species that evolved on dangerous worlds. These aliens evolved somewhere much more peaceful. Our medicine might be too strong for them." At the same time, Lieutenant Walsh was examining the ship's damage. The hull breaches were worse than they had appeared from outside. The aliens had been trying to repair their ship with tools that looked more like art supplies than engineering equipment. "Ma'am," Walsh said to Carter. "These people have never seen real damage like this before. They don't even have proper repair tools." Carter began to understand the situation. The aliens were from a peaceful world where nothing bad ever happened. They had never developed weapons, armor, or even proper emergency equipment. When their ship was damaged, they were completely helpless. "Dr. Price, can our medical team help them?" Carter asked. "I think so, but it will require very careful work. We'll need to modify all our procedures to account for their fragile biology." "And the ship repairs?" Lieutenant Walsh nodded. "We can fix their ship, but we'll have to do it ourselves. They don't have the tools or knowledge for this kind of work." Carter made another decision. "We'll help you," she told Velther. "But we need to bring our repair teams over here. Don't be afraid of them. They're here to save your lives." Velther looked at his dying crew and his broken ship. He had no choice but to trust these strange, powerful beings who had appeared in response to their call for help. "We accept your help," he said. "But please, we are not warriors. We do not know the ways of combat." Dr. Amanda Price stood in the medical bay of the luminous dawn, carefully examining the alien equipment while Catherian crew members watched nervously. Everything she touched seemed to glow with soft light, responding to her presence in ways that made her feel like she was disturbing something sacred. "This is incredible," she said to Captain Carter through her communicator. "Their medical technology is completely different from ours. They use sound waves and light frequencies to heal injuries instead of drugs or surgery." Captain Velther approached her carefully. Through Dr. Price's translator, his words came out as musical tones before being converted to English. "Your presence makes our equipment sing differently," he said. "Are you perhaps more dense than our people?" Price smiled at the polite way he had asked if humans were heavier than Catherians. "Yes, we are. We come from a world with stronger gravity than yours." "A heavy world," Velther repeated, his large eyes showing curiosity mixed with concern. "That would explain your solid bone structure and thick skin." Dr. Price realized she was learning as much about human biology from the aliens as they were learning about hers. To the Catherians, humans looked incredibly tough and durable. Their bones were thick, their muscles dense, and their skin almost armor-like compared to the fragile Catherian physiology. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kevin Walsh was working with a team of human engineers to repair the hull damage. The work was going slowly because every tool they brought seemed to frighten the aliens. "Sir," one of the engineers said to Walsh, "they keep backing away when we use the plasma cutters. I think the sound scares them." Walsh looked at the Catherians watching them work. The aliens flinched every time a power tool activated, as if they expected it to explode. "Use the quieter equipment," he ordered. "These people have probably never heard anything louder than a whisper." More done, the Catherian second officer approached Walsh carefully. "Your repair tools," he said through the translator. "They seem very aggressive. Do you use them as weapons as well?" Walsh paused in his work. The idea had never occurred to him, but he realized that to someone who had never seen industrial equipment, a plasma cutter would look like a weapon of war. "No," Walsh said gently. "These are just tools for building and fixing things. We don't use them to hurt people." "But they could hurt people," Morden observed. "Yes," Walsh admitted. "Almost everything we build can be dangerous if used wrong. We learn to be careful." This led to a conversation that revealed the vast differences between human and Catherian society. The Catherians had never developed any technology that could be used as a weapon. Their tools were all designed to be completely safe, even if used incorrectly. Captain Carter was having a similar conversation with Captain Velther about their respective home worlds. The differences were stunning. "Your world has no dangerous animals?" Carter asked through the translator. "None," Velther replied. "All life on our world exists in harmony. We evolved to live peacefully with all other species. What about natural disasters? Storms, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions? Velthur's translator made confused sounds before answering. I do not understand. These words. What is a volcanic eruption? Carter tried to explain, but realized she was describing concepts that were completely foreign to the Catherian experience. Their world was so stable and peaceful that they had never experienced anything more dangerous than a gentle rain shower. Your world, Velthur said carefully. It sounds very hostile. How do your people survive? We adapt, Carter said simply. We learn to build shelters, make weapons for hunting, develop medicine for injuries. We had to become strong to survive. And now you travel between the stars, Velthur observed. Your hostile world made you powerful enough to conquer space itself. The word conquer made Carter uncomfortable. Humans did tend to think of space exploration in military terms, while the Catherians obviously thought of it as a gentle journey of discovery. Back on the human fleet, Admiral Phillips was dealing with a new problem. Word of the first contact was spreading, and more ships were trying to join the operation. Admiral, we have a request from the merchant vessel Golden Star, her communications officer reported. They want to observe the first contact for historical purposes. Denied, Phillips said immediately. We already have too many ships here, but the requests kept coming. News ships, scientific vessels, even tourist cruises were trying to get close enough to witness humanity's first meeting with aliens. Phillips realized that the situation was becoming a public relations nightmare. Captain Ben Rodriguez was monitoring communications from his position closest to the alien ship when he picked up something troubling. Admiral, we're getting scanner readings from other alien vessels, he reported. Not Catherians. Different species, and they're watching us from long range. Phillips felt a chill run down her spine. How many? At least 6 different ships, all maintaining distance, but clearly observing our operations. The implications were serious. Other alien species were watching humanity's first contact, and they were seeing a massive military response to a simple rescue operation. What kind of impression was that giving them about human intentions? Dr. Price made a breakthrough in understanding Catherian biology that changed everything. While examining their medical records, she discovered something amazing. Captain Carter, you need to hear this, she said over the communicator. The Catherians are incredibly old as a species. The records go back over 50,000 years. 50,000? Carter replied. That's impossible. Humans have only had written history for a few thousand years. That's because we keep having wars and disasters that destroy our records, Price explained. The Catherians have never had a war, never had a plague, never had any kind of catastrophe that would interrupt their civilization. This revelation put everything in perspective. Humans were a young, aggressive species that had survived by fighting and adapting. The Catherians were an ancient, peaceful species that had survived by never having anything to fight against. They're like living history, Price continued. They probably know more about this region of space than any other species. But the Catherians were learning disturbing things about humans as well. Dr. HFY had been studying the human fleet through their repaired sensors, and what she found frightened her. Captain, she reported to Velthur, I have analyzed the human vessels. Each one carries enough weapons to destroy our entire home world. Velthur felt his skin turn cold. Are you certain? Yes, and there are nearly 90 of them surrounding. U.S. This is the most powerful military force I have ever seen in our historical records. The knowledge that they were surrounded by enough firepower to destroy planets made the Catherians even more nervous. From their perspective, humanity was a species so violent that they treated planet-killing weapons as standard equipment, Lieutenant Walsh had finished the emergency hull repairs and was preparing to return to his ship when Mordon approached him with a question. "Your people," Mordon said carefully. "You carry weapons even during rescue operations?" Walsh looked down at the sidearm on his belt. To him, it was just standard equipment, no more remarkable than his communicator or scanner. "It's just a precaution," he said. "We like to be prepared for any situation." "But this is a rescue," Mordon pointed out. "Who would you fight during a rescue?" The question made Walsh think. From the Cytherian perspective, bringing weapons to a rescue operation was like bringing a sword to a medical emergency. It suggested that humans expected violence, even in the most peaceful situations. Captain Carter was preparing to return to her ship when Captain Velther made a request that surprised her. "Would it be possible," he asked, "for some of your people to remain with us during our journey home? We would like to learn more about your species." Carter was touched by the request, but she had to explain the political reality. "I would like that, but we have protocols to follow. First contact situations require careful handling by our governments." "Governance?" Velther asked. "You have more than one?" This led to another difficult conversation. Carter had to explain that humanity was divided into hundreds of different nations, many of which didn't always get along with each other. The concept of a species that wasn't unified under one government was completely foreign to the Cytherians. "So, your people fight each other as well as the dangers of your world?" Velther asked. "Sometimes," Carter admitted, "but we're learning to work together better." As the human repair teams finished their work and prepared to leave, both species had learned troubling things about each other. The humans had discovered that they were dealing with an ancient, fragile species that had never experienced conflict. The Cytherians had learned that they were surrounded by a young, aggressive species that carried weapons everywhere and expected violence even during rescue operations. Dr. Price made one final discovery that would change everything. While examining the ancient beacon that had started the whole situation, she found something that shocked her. "Captain Carter," she called excitedly, "you need to see this. The beacon isn't Cytherian technology at all." "What do you mean?" "The materials, the design, even the power source. This beacon was built by humans. It's from one of our early colony ships that went missing over 200 years ago." 3 weeks after the first contact, Admiral Phillips sat in her ready room aboard the Liberty's Edge, reviewing reports that would have seemed impossible just a month ago. The human fleet had grown to over 100 ships, but instead of preparing for battle, they were now working alongside Cytherian vessels in the most unusual partnership in galactic history. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. Chief Petty Officer Tony Mitchell, a communications specialist aboard Captain Morrison's Iron Resolve, had been experimenting with Cytherian harmonic technology when he made a discovery that changed everything. "Admiral," Mitchell had reported, 3 days after first contact, "I've been working with the alien communication systems, and I think I've found something incredible." "What kind of something?" Phillips had asked. "Their harmonic technology could revolutionize our faster-than-light communications. Instead of messages taking days or weeks to travel between star systems, we could have real-time communication across the entire galaxy." The implications were staggering. Human space was held together by slow communication networks that made coordinating distant colonies difficult. With Cytherian harmonic technology, the human government could communicate instantly with settlements hundreds of light years away, but Mitchell's discovery came with a price. The technology required the kind of delicate engineering that humans were good at. Human manufacturing was designed for durability and power, not the precise harmonic frequencies that Cytherian technology needed. Captain Carter had been appointed as the first human ambassador to negotiate with the Cytherians. She met with Captain Velther aboard a specially constructed meeting facility that had been built in the space between the two fleets. "Your people interest us greatly," Velther said through the improved translators that both species had developed together. "You have abilities that we never imagined possible." "Such as?" Carter asked. "Your engineering skills are remarkable. You repaired our ship in hours when it would have taken us months to fix the damage ourselves. Your people think in ways that solve problems we never learned to handle." Carter smiled. "And your people have knowledge we need. You've been exploring this region of space for thousands of years. You know things about the galaxy that we're just beginning to discover." The negotiations had been difficult at first. The Catherians were still nervous about the massive human fleet surrounding them. Every time a human ship moved, the aliens worried that it might be the beginning of an attack. But Dr. Amanda Price had found a solution to that problem. Working with Dr. HFY, she had developed a cultural exchange program that allowed small groups from each species to visit the other ships. "The key," Price explained to Admiral Phillips, "is showing them that we're not just warriors. We're scientists, engineers, doctors, and teachers. Once they see that we have peaceful people too, they stop being so afraid of us." The exchange program revealed amazing things about both species. Human visitors to Catherian ships were amazed by the living crystal technology that seemed to respond to thoughts and emotions. Catherian visitors to human ships were fascinated by the robust engineering that could survive in the harshest conditions. Lieutenant Kevin Walsh had become an unofficial teacher for young Catherian scientists who wanted to learn about human engineering. He found that while the aliens were physically fragile, they were incredibly intelligent and learned new concepts quickly. "They're like students who have never seen a hammer before," Walsh explained to his fellow Marines. "Once you show them how it works, they understand it better than you do." But the most important development came when Captain Ben Rodriguez discovered that the region of space they were in was not as empty as human charts suggested. His long-range sensors had detected signs of other alien civilizations, some of which were not as peaceful as the Catherians. "Admiral, we have a problem," Rodriguez reported during a fleet meeting. "There are at least 12 different alien species in this sector. Some of them have been watching us since we arrived, and their ship designs suggest they're not interested in making friends." This news changed everything. The Catherians had been living in a dangerous neighborhood without realizing it. Their peaceful nature and lack of weapons had made them invisible to aggressive species who weren't interested in conquering defenseless worlds. But now that the human fleet was here, those same aggressive species were taking notice. "The Catherians need protection," Carter realized during a strategy meeting. "They've survived for thousands of years by being too peaceful to bother with. But if other species think they're allied with us, they could become targets." "Admiral, Phillips made a decision that would affect both species for generations. We're going to offer them a formal alliance. Protection in exchange for technology and knowledge." The alliance negotiations were complex. The Catherians had never made a military agreement before and didn't understand concepts like mutual defense pacts or territorial boundaries. "Captain," Carter had to explain everything in terms they could understand. "We want to be friends," she told the Catherian Council during one of their meetings. "Friends help each other when there's trouble." "But your help comes with great violence," replied Elder Keshmai, the oldest Catherian in their delegation. "Your ships carry enough weapons to destroy worlds. How do we know you won't use them against us?" It was Dr. Price who found the answer to their concerns. "Because we don't want to rule you," she said. "We want to learn from you. Your people have knowledge that could help us explore the galaxy more peacefully." The final agreement was unlike any treaty in human history. The Catherians would share their harmonic technology and provide detailed maps of peaceful alien civilizations throughout the galaxy. In exchange, humans would provide military protection and engineering assistance. But the most important part of the agreement was cultural. Both species would establish permanent exchange programs, allowing their people to live and work together. Human engineering teams would help upgrade Cytherian ships with basic defensive systems, while Cytherian scientists would teach humans about advanced sensor technology and peaceful exploration techniques. Colonel Maria Santos found herself in the unusual position of training Cytherian civilians in basic defensive tactics. It was the strangest assignment of her military career. Remember, she told a group of nervous Cytherian students, the goal is not to fight. The goal is to survive long enough for help to arrive. The Cytherians were surprisingly adaptable when their survival depended on it. Within weeks, they had learned to use human communication systems to call for help and basic evasion techniques to avoid hostile ships. The first joint human Cytherian patrol mission was commanded by Captain Morrison. Aboard the Iron Resolve, with a Cytherian science officer named Thelver serving as cultural advisor. The mission was to investigate reports of unknown ships in the outer system. "This is strange," Thelver reported as they approached the coordinates. "These energy signatures match those of the Zephyrian Empire. They are known to be aggressive toward peaceful species," Morrison nodded. "Then we'll make sure they understand that the Cytherians are under human protection now." The confrontation was brief but decisive. When the Zephyrian ships detected the Iron Resolve, they immediately withdrew rather than face a human dreadnought. Word spread quickly through the region that the peaceful Cytherians now had powerful allies. 6 months after first contact, the joint human Cytherian space station was completed at the exact coordinates where the distress call had originated. The station served as both a diplomatic facility and a strategic outpost, with human defensive systems protecting Cytherian research laboratories. Captain Carter, now serving as the first human ambassador, stood on the station's observation deck, watching human and Cytherian ships working together on patrol missions. The sight would have been unimaginable a year ago. "It's remarkable," said Captain Velther, who had become the Cytherian ambassador. "Our species are so different, yet we work together so well." "Maybe that's why it works," Carter replied. "We're good at different things. Together, we're stronger than either of us could be alone." The alliance had already begun to change both species. Human explorers were learning to approach new worlds more carefully, using Cytherian techniques to make peaceful contact with alien civilizations. Cytherian ships now carried basic defensive systems and knew how to call for human military support when needed. Dr. Price had established the first joint research facility where humans and Cytherians worked together to study the galaxy's peaceful species. Their goal was to create a network of allied civilizations that could explore space together instead of fighting over territory. "We're not just making friends," Price explained to visiting dignitaries from Earth. "We're learning a new way to explore the galaxy. Instead of assuming every new species is a threat, we're learning to recognize the peaceful ones and protect them from the aggressive ones." Admiral Phillips, now serving as the military commander of the Joint Defense Force, reflected on how the situation had evolved. What had started as an accidental military response had become humanity's first successful peaceful alliance with an alien species. The final scene of the story took place 1 year after first contact.